pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mindy, if you would please call roll. Latrell. Here. Gary.
Here.
Deb. Yo. Shelley. Here. I'm here. We're all here. It's in, so it's, we've definitely met a quorum. So this is, our agenda was posted, timely. Are there any additions or changes to the agenda as posted? There being none, we'll need an approval, please. I'm to approve. Go ahead. You can, I'll second that. Latrell first, Deb second, all in favor, aye? Aye. Any opposed? Our next, agenda item is comments, questions from the community audience. So that's when I started to talk to you and interrupted myself with the Pledge of Allegiance, that we have been not providing a whole lot of public information about the proposed dark sky ordinance because it changes constantly. And we would hate to publicize, this is what it's going to be, what are y'all thinking? And then next week we go, oops, we have to change it over here. And then we hear from Dark Sky International and they have a recommendation there. And then we hear from village representatives. So it has been evolving at least over 2 years, if not more. So we are waiting until we have final format, and that's one of the village's requirements, that once it's proposed, then the village council will vote to proceed, which means public notice and then a review by their legal, and then they have public hearings. So it's not like we're trying to keep things secret. We just want to keep them accurate.
Okay.
So do you have comments at this time? Could you introduce yourself, please?
Well, my name is Paul Turtley.
Okay.
And I live up near, not in U Park, but up that way, so Valley of the U. So,
Okay.
I haven't seen a version in 3-4 months older. It's
Right.
all
I
I've
think
seen.
the last one was published.
Yeah, it was pretty old. So the only real concern I have, other than how easy your light bulbs would find, but the big concern I have is, are you going to allow floodlights that are motion activated and have a timer that shuts them off after 4 or 5 minutes or so?
That's allowed.
That is allowed, okay. That's important to me because it's very dark where I'm at, and it's not a person security issue, it's a safety issue.
Sure.
When I walk outside with my dogs, I don't want to be turned around, there's a bear. And we have seen bears walking within 10 feet of our house, so that was my big concern, was the original version seemed to not allow that kind of thing, so I was wanting to ask.
But, and that's, again, one, thing that is, if you had reviewed the one that was approved by council March 31st, there's many things that are different.
Yeah.
Well, we'll just
And
continue.
that's about the time I saw.
Okay, yeah, and that was the last time it was proposed, voted to proceed by council, and it was published, publicly. But since then, go ahead.
Well, I was just gonna say that I don't remember the timing that's in there right now. It does have floodlight or motion activation. I forget if it's 5 or 10 minutes. I can't remember the number. The only other thing I think it still has in there is it's not supposed to be triggered by road traffic. In other words, if you have a home right up against the road, we don't want all your lights turning on every time a car drives by.
I understand.
You probably don't want your lights going on.
I don't want it going on all the time either. We don't have that issue with cars right where you are.
Right.
But bears and elk and
Yep.
deer are quite common.
But that would be a difference between existing and new build as well.
Okay.
Yeah. So if you bear with us, then you'll be hearing more information.
Sure.
And if you have questions, feel free to interrupt. We don't mind. We're not going to restrict you to the agenda here. But so to continue with the agenda, item A, progress and update of proposed ordinance. Oh, sorry. Approval of the minutes. Excuse me. Okay, Mindy gave us each a copy and she emailed them earlier. If everybody's had time to review. Are there any changes, additions, or corrections to the minutes from June 2nd, wasn't it? Yes. And if there are none, then we'll need a motion to approve the minutes from the last meeting.
I move that they be approved.
Gary and Deb, on second, they all in favor, all right?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, now, old business, it's always fault. Item A, just so that we have kind of, since this is being, recorded, and that way we have it, on public disclosure, just an update since what happened after June 2nd. And if I remember correctly, on June 2nd, we had received the comments from the resort and we included a few items that addressed the resort specifically. And we received feedback from village representatives that it would not be looked favorably upon to reduce the number of fixtures per entrance from 2 per entrance to 1 per entrance. And so at that time, we voted to hold off sending the proposed ordinance to planning and zoning, pending one last call to Dark Sky International to see if they could pull a rabbit out of the hat, something that would satisfy. We were in the process of trying to apply for Dark Sky International recognition to be the first municipal ordinance that was approved by Dark Sky International in the nation. That's a new designation they came up with in February 26th. So we were trying real hard because Dark Sky International representatives said we were very close to being Dark Sky recognized. So because the feedback we got from Village Council did not comply with Dark Sky International regulations, we went back to our Dark Sky International representative to see if he could pull a rabbit out of the hat and find something that would satisfy the village needs and Dark Sky International recognition. So we didn't advance our proposed ordinance to the next P and Z meeting. And then Jake and I did have about an hour call with Rick Booting from Dark Sky International. And he said he would work on it and get back with us in a week. And then it was 2 weeks. But anyway, he did find an alternative, and it was largely the residential lighting for new builds, where he proposed that in order to satisfy Angel Fire's need for outdoor living space, like under decks and everything, decks and overhangs, he said it would be acceptable to Dark Sky International on the count of number of fixtures allowed if something is 0 uplight under a deck and 3 feet back from the edge of the building, that wouldn't be part of your count for the total number allowed in a building residence. So we sent another proposal to informally to village representatives, and they thought that alternative was good. But again, the count of only one door, one fixture count per door, regardless of where they're put, was still not satisfactory for the new builds in town. And the village is just plain not able to measure light trespass. And that was a part of Dark Sky International's requirement, is that you measure light trespass. So we went back and forth with Dark Sky International. We went back and forth with village representatives. And so then I think the latest rewrite is as of June 1st. So the June 1st rewrite is what we need to discuss and come to a conclusion on this afternoon and determine whether or not we want to ask planning and zoning to review and approve this, and then forward it on to the village council for their review and vote to proceed. So does that catch us up? Okay. So if we want, I'm just thinking we could just go through page by page. I have my color coded copy from from what changed, what I did in color coding copy, does anyone else need one, or if I just rattle it back to you? Okay, because you've, I sent a draft, quite some time ago and asked that you take time to look. So for the record, anything in black was what was voted upon June 2nd by this committee. And then green text is suggestions from Dark Sky International. And then orange text were feedback from village representatives. So what we did to combine everything for the definition of decorative lighting, we added the word string lighting and festoon, and added where no individual lamp emits more than 50 lumens, and the lumen density of the string is no greater than 25 lumens per foot. So that then helps define string lighting and decorative lighting on decks or overhangs, canopies, that kind of stuff.
And Shelley and I, when we were going through that revision, hopped on Amazon to see what's the most common festoon lighting available, and it all met with that, within that criteria, essentially.
So in general, the feedback we're getting from Dark Sky International actually loosens restrictions from what we had proposed in March. We thought we were following, another community, mountain community, Breckenridge, who is Dark Sky recognized, and so we just kind of did a cut and paste and mimicked theirs. But as it finds out, they are not a Dark Sky ordinance community. And in the process of us saying, well, you know, if this passed Breckenridge, if Breckenridge passed, how come we can't? And they went, oh, there's an error in Breckenridge. They're gonna have to go back and revise theirs. Oops. So that's why we keep going back and forth and changing. And even Rick from Dark Sky International would sometimes change his parameters as he went through it. Okay, if there's no, and then so we added temporary outdoor lighting. We had a hang up earlier about, well, what about weddings? And because one of the comments from the resort was they wanted to be have an exclusion for outdoor weddings, events, that kind of stuff. But these are all temporary. So we went in and added a definition of temporary outdoor lighting to include festivals and that kind of stuff. And so the definition of temporary outdoor lighting is any outdoor lighting fixture, lamp, string light, decorative light, or similar illumination device that is installed, operated, maintained for a limited duration and is not intended as a part of the permanent part of the property lighting. Temporary outdoor lighting includes lighting used for construction activities, special events, festivals, holidays, emergency operations, filming, or other short-term purposes. Lighting shall be considered temporary when installed for a period not exceeding 7 consecutive days unless otherwise authorized by permit or otherwise provided in the ordinance. So that took care of festive lighting for weddings, special events, that kind of stuff. If it's temporary for 7 days, then the only thing they have to do is follow the definition of decorative lighting, string lighting, that kind of stuff. Any questions or comments or changes? And again, these are definitions. Okay. So the next change, very small, under our purpose, the ordinance provides outdoor lighting requirements intended to promote, preserve, protect the small town character, natural night sky, and the welfare of enjoyment of the village of Angel Fire residents and visitors. So we added and visitors. I don't know how that, I think it was in before, got out, in, out. Okay. So now we're talking exemptions. We added the words exemptions, which is paragraph C, small paragraph B. We had temporary lighting as the header. Now we have temporary outdoor lighting. That makes sense because we're not trying to regulate indoor lighting. And then it says examples include. And it just repeats what we had agreed upon in June: law enforcement, EMS, worker safety, Angel Fire resort amenities, maintenance, repairs. What we struck then was festivals, celebration, and other special events, because now that's under the definition of temporary. So we don't need to repeat it under an exemption for temporary outdoor lighting. And we also struck the statement, lighting operated by an accredited public school for extracurricular activities, including practices before, during, and after the event, because it's covered elsewhere. And there was no sense, Rick kept cautioning me, I'm a detail person, he says, don't repeat yourself and don't make it so restrictive if it's already stated and already understood, you fall under another category, then you're just making things complex. So he advised that we delete those two sentences. Is there any comment on those? Questions? Okay. Then the next change is under paragraph F. And this is at the request or recommendation by representatives of the Village of Angel Fire. Paragraph C, under big paragraph F, defines how light trespass is measured. And because the village does not have code enforcement or an ability to measure light trespass from one property to another, then we shouldn't have it in the ordinance because it would be unenforceable. And we were trying to have it in the ordinance because for Dark Sky International purposes, something has to be measurable in order to be enforceable. And since this is not enforceable, we can't have it measurable. Does that make sense?
It is the logical conclusion. What Rick's comment was, you have to have this in here to settle disputes. Someone says, I don't have too much light. Well, how do you settle that dispute between neighbors or whoever's made the complaint? You have to have a way to measure it on site. And at this time, we don't have a current code enforcement officer. We don't have the equipment to do the measuring. And at such time that we do get a code enforcement officer back, getting that person out at night to measure at the property line after dark is a bit challenging with how we do our schedules around here. So it was unfortunate that we have to take this out, but there's just simply no way for us to do that today. The follow-on effect of that is without that in there, you really can't apply to be dark sky recognized. And so that's kind of where we're stuck now is we don't have the ability to do light trespass measurement. So we really can't get through the Dark Sky International official proceeding. So as Shelley and I know I've talked a lot about this since the 1st of June. I think the hope here is that we can gather up the best parts of what's in here, the parts that we all like, and still proceed forward with a night sky or a exterior lighting ordinance. But we do not think at this point it is going to qualify as a dark sky ordinance because of this particular provision.
I wonder, I know sometimes they will do like provisional recognition. If you say like within 5 years, we will have this taken care of. Is that something we might
I
pursue?
had not asked him.
That might be worth trying.
I think at this point, it would make the most sense to pass what
Pass them.
ordinance we
Sure,
can
sure.
and then go back to dark sky.
Say like.
and say,
this is our
listen, this is what we
existing,
did.
Plan on adding this.
Because Rick was very complimentary of
Yeah.
95% of what's in here and the work you guys have done, but there's a couple of key sticking points, one for dark sky and one for the village
Mm.
that are just, I think we need to quit tripping over those and
Yeah.
move on to the next
Yeah.
phase.
Yeah, I'm all for leaving it out. I just think that if we tell them like, hey,
Yeah.
we're planning on having a code enforcement officer eventually, if we do this within 5 years, will you?
Well, and
Will you bless us now?
so I will say, and I guess I'll hold my comments for the light count until we get to that section.
Well,
Because
I was gonna say that, as we discussed at our last meeting, our charter says that we are, our intent was to come up with an ordinance that mitigates light pollution and angel fire. Then we got distracted by shiny things because there was this Dark Sky International.
We got distracted by that.
There was such a close potential of having national recognition for a Dark Sky International. That ended up becoming our objective rather than sticking to what fits for Angel Fire. So we're backing off on the ideal for a recognition, but keeping the ideal of what's good for Angel Fire. So if we strike that paragraph, then that will eliminate a requirement for measurement of light trespass. Then under standards for non-residential use in paragraph G, we were adding the concept of all exterior lighting mounted under roof overhangs and eaves will be zero uplight, which almost, it's almost by definition would be, a can light stuck up underneath a, deck overhang, but we wanted to have that in there specifically because, and then there's one exception to, and then it says building mounted and landscape fixtures shall not exceed a total output of 950 lumens with the exception of the decorative string and festoon lighting that cannot emit more than 25 lumens per foot. So we're stating the 950 lumens per fixture, except the festoon lightings, they have their own parameters. And then under light levels, we have all exterior lighting mounted to the side of a structure or outside of a structure, meaning your pathways and stuff like that, or within 3 feet from the roof edge shall be limited to 2 light fixtures per structural entrance and a maximum of 3 additional fixtures on or around the structure. And this relates to non-residential, and it relates to new builds. So to back up, one thing we didn't change from June 2nd. So most, like 80% of this pertains to new builds, which is what we're trying to contain as Angel Fire grows. For existing lighting, there are 2 choices. If you choose not to change any of your lighting in your house, it has to be extinguished by 10 p.m. with the exception of motion detectors that are off by 5. Or you can retrofit them so that they're zero uplight, which originally we had it at an angle. Now at the Dark Sky International says zero uplight because we're trying to protect the sky. So that was part of the, actually it's different from what the village council has seen, but it's not considered a change now because we voted on it on our June meeting. So we're making a distinction between existing lighting. You have 2 choices, turn it off or have it retrofit to meet new standards. And then all the rest is for new builds. So these, what I just read, backing up, pertain to non-residential land uses and the resort. So it is just, again, clarifying the parameters. So, any questions or concerns there? And now additional lighting standards for residential use. It says all exterior lighting mounted under the roof and overhang and eave shall be zero uplight. Okay, and there again, pretty standard is a can light is zero uplight under the eave and overhang. Then we delete the paragraph that says light levels shall be allocated as follows. What we deleted was 1 fixture per entrance, 2 additional fixtures on around the dwelling, never exceeding 4 fixtures. I think this relates to, the high density areas, excuse me. So little paragraph I, high density was 1 fixture per entrance and 2 around the building. But we're going to strike that and insert all exterior lighting mounted under the roof, overhang and eaves shall be zero uplight. All exterior lighting mounted to the side of the structure or outside and within 3 feet of the roof shall be limited to 3 fixtures per dwelling. So we're talking condos here, the high density, or 2,850 lumens per dwelling. So that gives new builds, again, condos, 2 different alternatives of how to measure their exterior lighting, either by count for number of for entrances, ingress, egress, or by being able to prove 250 lumens per dwelling. So that gives condo builders 2 different parameters that they can choose from. Or condos and mobile homes, I think, are high density.
Townhomes,
Townhomes,
condos.
yeah, that. Any concerns or questions there? Something that needs to be changed? Okay. So then, all other, which is what we would consider the normal residential, we added All exterior lighting mounted under the roof, overhangs, and eaves shall be zero uplight. Number two, all exterior lighting mounted to the side of a structure, outside of a structure, and within 3 feet of the roof edge shall be limited to a total amount of 8 light fixtures per half acre, never exceeding 16 fixtures. And that, Dark Sky International thought that was good. Or all exterior lighting shall be limited to a total number of 2 light fixtures per entrance to a structure, and a maximum of 6 additional fixtures on and around the residence that are compliant with the chapter. This has been the thing that we mimic from Breckenridge, that in a new build, a residence can have a base of 6, and then for every ingress egress would have 2 additional count, but you don't have to put them by your doors. If having them under the deck is important to you, that's where you put them. If having them along your driveway is where you need them. So this is just a mathematical way of counting the fixtures, which keeps the lumen count and the light pollution within Dark Sky International preferences. And then there's a third, or the total outdoor lumens shall not exceed 2.5 lumens per square foot of the dwelling area. So there's 3 different ways that a contractor and a new home builder can agree on how they want to mitigate their exterior lighting.
So the new rubric that Rick came up with was this 3 feet of the roof edge. And the reason that he came up with that, and the reason that the 6+2 worked, are we have a large number of new builds that end up with an outdoor kitchen, dining, eating area of some kind. It's typically under the same slope of roof as the house. So you're familiar with the big monoslope roof. They put the can lights in the deck roof and shine it down over the eating areas, essentially. The problem is those areas have to be lit for some amount of safety. A lot of these are elevated, they have high rails, so you have to have some type of lighting on these structures. But there's not a real good definition of what that cap should look like. So originally, when we were working with the 6+2, we went around to several of the new builds to see what would that do for them. And they obviously can scale that number up by adding more doors. So if you have a 10,000 square foot home that has 8 doors instead of the 3 doors that my house has, then you can have more lights. Personally, I think you could probably pick one of these paths. I don't know that you need all 3. The 6+2 worked before, it got council's approval before. The new rubric of as long as you're not 3 feet from the edge was something that Dark Sky came up with out of a Flagstaff code, I believe is where they got that. So I'm of 2 minds of this. It's giving a third path to compliance, which doesn't necessarily hurt, but it is a little bit more of a confusing metric because we're going to be measuring distance to the roof edge on plans, as opposed to the other rubric is how many you got. 6+, one of these is a little easier to wrap your head around than the other. So I think it's fine to leave all 3. The third one I kind of call Mindy's provision, and not that it would apply to her home because it's already existing, but that provision, the last one, is in there to give people that want, say you have a small house and you only want to put a couple of exterior lights on it, but you want to go ahead and light your driveway because you have a long, winding, dark driveway, whatever it is. It's giving you a larger pool of lighting to do that with, essentially. So the third one is not really meant as a restriction. It's meant for that person who wants to build a home with very little exterior lighting on it, but they may have some landscaping or some other lighting that they do want to enjoy.
Well, that, and I think the newer proposal from Dark Sky International about anything within 3 feet of the edge, not counting, then would allow for a lot more outdoor living area, your kitchens and stuff, but then not reduce the amount going around.
Correct.
So it again, this is another way that the Dark Sky International has eased some of our proposals from earlier.
They have. And so obviously Shelley and I have had a lot of time to go through this nuance, but I'm very curious as to what the committee thinks overall of these 3 essentially paths to compliance, and if we should move forward with all 3 as is, or if we should go back a revision and just do the 6+2 and keep it simple? Both will work, but what do you all think?
Most we voted it.
Okay. But do you have an opinion, your opinion
My
of,
opinion is, flexibility, all three.
Could we,
The confusing part I can see, but someone else may not look at that as confusing. They may look at it as exactly the way they wanted to do it.
not to be a spoiler alert, but on the assumption we have three choices, then later on the plan submission, it says when you, submit your plans, you have to state whether you're following Plan A, Plan B, or Plan C, so that the planning and zoning, as they review plans, can say, okay, they chose Plan A, we're gonna count the number of doors. Oh, they chose Plan B, we're gonna count this. So that it's required when you submit your plans to state, what your, parameters are.
could we combine 2 and 3? They all, so that, just keep the first part that eliminates the lights from more than 3 feet in from your plan, but then keep the 6 and 2.
You can, what you don't want to do is link the 6 and 2 to the Plan 3 with the total lumen. Because right now, the 6 and 2 does not have a lumen cap, which dark sky also will not like. It's 6+2. So if you have 15 doors on your home, that's 36 lights you get on the home. That's how that math works. So there is no cap through that particular track.
I'm sorry, sorry, I'm looking at the numbers on here, not.
Oh.
So like combine 1 and 2 really, so the first one that we're talking about is the one where like the lights don't count if they're underneath your eave, and that restricts you to 8 per half acre or 16 total. But we could just take that first part saying like these lights don't count, and then the 6 and 2.
But
Those
even
together.
if you go with alternative 3, where you're going 6+2, anything under the overhang still has to be zero uplight, which is essentially stated probably on
Universally,
page 1,
yeah.
that everything has to be zero uplight. So
Sure.
this is just,
Yeah, it's, I mean,
statement,
it all has,
clarification.
it all has to be zero uplight, but
Right.
this is saying
But
the number 2 says all of these that are mounted on the outside and within 3 feet of the roof edge. So that doesn't count our kitchen lights back here underneath the deck, right?
if they're 3 feet back.
Right.
Right.
So why don't we keep that part and combine it with the 6 and 2? Instead of limiting to 8 and 16.
They're gonna confuse
I
people.
was thinking.
Well, I mean, we haven't stated what, like,
Should be limited to 8 and 16, or you can count the doors.
So I guess,
Yeah.
let's look at this, your point of one provision at a time. Do we feel like we're gaining something? If we do the 6+2 and that is broad approval, the new 3-foot rubric that Dark Sky's given us here at kind of the last minute, does it net us anything or is it just confusion?
maybe not.
I think it's this confusion.
So we can just get rid of.
I'm okay either way, but I don't wanna, like Gary's saying 3 paths.
Yeah.
Latrell, what do you think?
I'm just sitting here imagining the house they're building just down from me. It's a 2-story. Has a huge exterior roof, and I understand the 3 feet. But I don't think it's going to help. I think I'm gonna be able to see everything they do. I hope they keep the clothes on.
Sure.
And that's what I'm trying to work through my head when we're talking about this.
The whole, like I said, the whole rubric around, and this was Dark Sky's concession. They know if you have 1,200 square foot of outside living space that is on elevated deck somewhere, the state is gonna require you to put some lighting there so somebody doesn't trip and fall over the rail, right? Like, just basic common sense. What they're trying to do by giving us that 3-foot safety zone around the edge is limit all that light to where it's just down, in the correct area. Maybe that works, maybe it doesn't. What it does though is it takes that count of light and makes it irrelevant. Because the problem is, dark sky is gonna tell you exterior lighting should be one thing, but this now elevated exterior kitchen, an architect is gonna tell you, you need X amount of lumens per square foot to safely navigate now what is an exterior kitchen. And we have a lot of those, not unfortunately, it's a great thing to have all the outdoor space and required, but it's a lot of those to contend with. Now, to your point, the roof that's doing this and all the lights that are up here, you hope those are going down to the workspace, but they're kind of all over the place. So I don't like or dislike this provision. I think the mayor's preference is the 6+2, because it's kind of stupid simple. You understand, you get 6 lights and then 2 for every entrance, put them where you want to put them. They still have to be down lights, they still have to be the Kelvin temperature that's in here. So it's a very quick and easy thing to understand. The other one is gonna require a little bit more pencil work.
If we're not going for dark sky, then do we need the 3 foot in there?
I don't think so, because if you read those three, the one with the 3 foot, it actually has a lumen cap in there, right? So it is a more restrictive path than the 6+2, okay? So the 6+2 is the easiest path that we're giving someone. So how many people are gonna pick the more restrictive path as opposed to just doing the 6+2? The other one, when you first read it, and it took me a while, Mindy, I hope you don't mind, I named it after you, but it was Mindy's idea of more lights that are not on the home. Great, we've got a path for that now. So I don't see that the 3 foot from the edge is doing any real work here. And because it's a more restrictive than 6+2, I think almost nobody's gonna pick that one. Most people are gonna say, give me the 6+2 or the 2.5 lumens per square foot of living space, and let's get on down the road.
Well, I actually interpret number 2 with where you don't have to count yours that are 3 foot back as being less restrictive, because you can have a whole bunch of them 3 foot back and then plus your others. But I did read again where it is tied to fixtures per half acre.
Correct.
Acreage.
Right.
And if it's tied to acreage, then yeah, everybody's gonna,
Correct.
yeah, then you have to know the acreage lot and then do some more math.
And we went around and around with dark sky on that a little bit, because they said, well, you have a lot, half acre homes. Like, yeah, we do, but we build a lot of big homes on half acre lots. That's just the way it is. So
Okay.
again, you guys do what you want to do. I just don't see that the 3 foot gains us a vote anywhere or reduces Lachelle's problems with the neighbors across the street. I don't think it does either one of those, realistically.
But
The council, have they had any weigh in on that proposal?
I took it to the mayor because he's obviously the one, most involved in this. And he kind of was like, well, that could work too, but so does the other way. So it's
keep it
a,
simple.
Yeah.
Back,
So
sorry.
you told us in one of the emails that the planning and zoning commission had met again. And someone had said the ordinance was too long. And that's what happens when you give alternatives.
sure.
They do get longer. I don't think it matters how long it is, if it's correct.
Correct.
And I don't know who this member was that said that I don't judge anything by.
So that could be a deal breaker? Do we know?
Well, I don't know. That's why I wondered who the, member was who questioned the length of it. Because city ordinances just are sometimes. And they're done that way on purpose so people won't find the little, hopefully find the little way to get around it. And you all have done a great job of trying to avoid that. So I don't know. I think option 3 is probably gonna end up in the wastebasket with somebody. And I'm concerned that we'll get some pushback.
Are you sure you mean 3? Because 3 was what the council had approved.
No, I'm talking about the 3 foot.
The 3 foot.
The 3 foot.
Okay, yeah, okay. So that would be paragraph 2.
Yeah, I just, and I don't want it to hold it up anymore.
Question, can you explain what this 3 foot thing is? Is it 3 feet down from the roof line, or is it 3 feet away from the house?
There's your deck overhang is like this,
Yeah,
and here's the edge that faces your yard.
okay,
If the light is 3 foot back,
Oh, from the edge
From
of the
the edge
roof?
of the roof.
Okay,
then
As a
it's going to be presumed to not be,
okay. So that only applies where you have a roof over a deck.
Pretty
or
much.
any overhang. If someone, a lot of people like to light their soffits, but I can't imagine 3-foot soffits. So pretty much the concept would be a deck
I
overhang.
understand.
But to go back to Mindy's point about stating again, all exterior lighting mounted on a roof overhangs in each shall be zero uplight, I think that relates to what Jake was talking about, how some of not all of the deck overhangs are like in the chalet style, where they would be.
A lot of them are monoslope like that,
And so.
where you're gonna have lights.
So
So the thought process is if you have one on the roof, it's pointing way out away. If you have one way down here, it's probably on your deck.
But you said that you can buy can lights that rotate.
Yeah, they have some adjustment, some tilt inside of
to
it.
So that even though it's on the edge, where normally if it's just mounted flat to the angle of the roof, it would be shining this way, that they do have some that can rotate the light down. And that's why I think statement number 1 is still important, even though it's redundant.
The thing that I'm actually wondering about is why we have a separate standard, the 8 and 16, separate from the 2 and 6.
Because that was an alternative that Dark Sky International threw in, that
Okay,
it
so
would be.
maybe like we could do an.
Yeah, they took this as a different path to compliance from Flagstaff to
And
address.
they didn't say we could do it with, don't count these lights with your 2 and 6.
Correct.
Okay.
The 2 and 6 is what we've been calling the Breckenridge rubric, because that's where we stole it from, quite frankly. But it works. It scales up, it scales down. It's easy to do the count of, and so that's why we stuck with it. So we got this third path late in the game here. And unfortunately, a little bit after Shelley and I had begun to realize the measuring at the property line was gonna be the deal breaker. So to your point, that if we're not gonna be able to get over the measurement of the property line, then this more convoluted rubric of 3 feet from it doesn't really gain us anything. If it was the last piece that would get us over the dark sky hump, then okay, maybe it's worth the battle, but that's not the conversation we're having.
But it's something down the line.
Sure.
Right, if it's passed.
Yeah.
Would it have to be added?
It would be, yeah, so in order to do dark sky application, we would need, the enforcement, the measurement on site. We would need some hard lumen caps per site, per acre, which we don't have in the 2+6 rubric. But the 2+6 rubric, ultimately, it's only unscaled because if you're willing to pay for a lot of extra doors, then you don't have a cap. If you're decision was made.
I would say in that case, I'm with Gary. Let's keep it in. That way we don't have to write it in later if we want to get rid of this guy.
Yeah.
And then just flip the order so that the one that everybody likes best is the first one they read.
I mean, if they say, hey, I can't understand all this other stuff, I want 6+2, well, fine, go for it.
Yeah.
But now we have a provision in place already for when we do get the dark sky recognition, we don't have to go and push for that all over again.
And do you want to make a motion, or is there any other discussion first, the next time?
It's at the end of the revisions, comments you had.
Of that paragraph. Now, the total outdoor lumens shall not exceed 2.5 for square foot of dwelling area. Was that acceptable to the general builders of Angel Fire?
I don't know. I haven't taken that one to them. And again, that is not to be combined with the others. In other words, you're not supposed to do 2+6
Right.
and
Right.
under this. That is simply there for homes that want very little on structure lighting, but want more landscape lighting for whatever reason.
So do you see that as a hurdle or no?
I don't think so, because again, you have 3 paths to get through here. That's probably the most restrictive, right? Because it's per half acre.
No, that just says per square foot of dwelling area.
So, some quick math then. So let's take, so you're gonna have 6,000 lumens for a 2,500 square foot home, or no, for a 3,000 square foot home.
How much, 25,000?
It'd be 3,000 square foot times 2.5 would be, 7,500 lumens. So that is actually quite a bit less than like the 12 to 14,000 that we were doing, so that is the most restrictive
Right.
path in there. Then is gonna be the 3 foot from the edge roof, then is gonna be the 2+6.
But-
So
For a specific house,
for a
that may be
specific house,
a
correct,
light, because you only have a front door and a back door.
correct,
And again, this is for new builds,
correct.
existing builds, and so I'm gonna guess that many new builds wouldn't be building with only 2 doors.
Correct.
Yeah, that's the flexibility I was talking about too.
Yeah.
We don't know how these builders are gonna feel. You know, if we-
So as long as it's clear that you have to pick A, B, or C, not and, it's
Yes, they're all.
1
doors.
or 2 or 3, then
But should we can, then just, swap the order of them and have number 3. So number 1 would be all exterior mounted light under roof and overhang eaves have to be 0 uplight. So that tells you, you have to turn them down if they're on a slope roof. Then we make paragraph 2 be the 6+2, that was the mimicking Breckenridge. And then paragraph 3 would be the new proposal from Dark Sky International, which is more convoluted. And then number 4 would remain the same, 2.5 lumens per square foot, which again, allows for, homes that just have a very few number of entrances to have more lights, for driveways or their overhangs or something.
But Dark Sky International is not saying that if we do these conjunctive, you know, this one or this one or this one, that we do it that way, but that will qualify us.
correct.
It's just,
So the battle you're gonna have is over time, getting this ordinance passed, letting people adjust habits and see how that works, and then taking out the more permissive paths is what Dark Sky is gonna want.
So the only change that Dark Sky would want for recognition would be to change what we're now calling paragraph number 2 to have 1 light fixture. No, actually they said 2 for the main entrance, 1 for each additional entrance. And then the one where we say 8 fixtures per half acre, never exceeding 16 fixtures was their recommendation. So that's already, would already fit their parameters. So all we have to do is change 1 number going on down into the future to have recognition. Anything else there?
But just one suggestion, this is a minor thing, I think we should capitalize and bold the ors.
Yeah, we can, I mean,
Just so that people can see it, just because it's kind of
Yeah.
in there, it's a small word.
right, sure. We can, I don't know, it was when when the village council sent after March 31st, the ordinance to their legal review, they did a lot of grammatical and formatting things. So we'll put it in, see if they take it out.
Sounds good.
Okay. Okay, and then from there on, everything that we voted on June 2nd doesn't change except for plan submissions. At a minimum, the lighting plan shall designate the light level standard being followed under G 1 or 2, H, B 1 or 2. And so anyway, that says when you're doing a new build, you submit your plans, you have to say what program you're going under, so that whoever reviews the plans, it says in the box, we're going with this restriction, now who can qualify. So I think that's needed, otherwise the
Sure.
4 committees that have to approve this. Okay, and then,
Now, ultimately, the committees, it wouldn't be a committee that would approve that. So you would tell the planning and zoning director on your plan submission what you're doing, and if it fits within the rubric, then he can sign those plans without needing to go to the committee. The only reason it would go to committee, P and Z committee is for a variance or,
that's right.
yeah.
Well, when I said committee, I was thinking the architecture review
Ah,
committee,
yeah,
because they're kind of the first level.
right.
And they have been very careful to caution builders that this is not in accordance with city ordinance, because we do have a current city ordinance. And some plans have come through that do not fit the current ordinance, and they tell the builder, hey, this is against code. You really don't want to do it. And then the only other thing is under relief procedures, when we're talking about hardship cases. It was decided, or it's my suggestion anyway, to strike the, provision that property, let's see, the village council may grant a variance from any requirement of the ordinance upon written request by developer or owner, public hearing upon finding that a strict application of such requirement when regarded as a whole would result in confiscation of the property. And one of the members of planning and zoning kept reading it backwards, that if you don't comply, we'll confiscate your property. What it's saying is if complying means that some other agency somewhere would confiscate your property, but that falls under a hardship. If they're gonna confiscate your property, that's a hardship. So I just suggested that we strike that because it's confusing to read, I agree. And it's really not necessary. Any other comments there? Okay. So as a whole, what we approved in June without change, the changes we've talked about, we've gone through. Oh, the other thing, very small, in going through trying to reduce verbiage, I found one definition under the definition list that isn't used anywhere else since we struck, measuring light trespass. So we could strike the definition of lux, which is that reasonable? Okay. And one other thing I wanted to make sure we were aware of, that Dark Sky International has a maximum lumen of 1,000 lumen per fixture or 3,000 Kelvin light color. We are slightly more restrictive in 950 lumens per fixture and 2,700 Kelvin by choice. And when we spoke with Rick Uding, I said, okay, is the 950 lumen fixture readily available, or are we doing something that's too tight, or the 2,700 Kelvin volts? And he said that those are readily available online anywhere. So just so that we know that we are taking a little bit extra step. And I think part of that kind of future proofs us, because I think as time goes on, Dark Sky International will probably get a little bit more restrictive. So we have our foot in the door already. And then the other thing about pulling out pieces that don't really apply, I looked for pieces that don't really apply. And if we start pulling a whole bunch of stuff out that seems like overkill, then we don't really have an ordinance. We just have a building plan. That, and I think the more we can leave in, like we did all three alternatives, then that gives us a good setup for, like Jake was saying, in the future, when the village gets used to this, the builders get used to this, and everybody sees the benefits, then if we still want to apply for some kind of dark sky recognition, whether it's an ordinance recognition or community recognition, then we were that step ahead, because if we just have to tweak one or two things to get recognition, that's going to be much easier than adding paragraphs and paragraphs to,
That would only take 4 years probably.
but, I lost my train of thought. So, you know, Rick did tell us there was a small town, I think in Michigan, that was awarded the first dark sky ordinance. And theirs is, I think, like 16 pages long, and ours is 8. And ours, if we had qualified on those couple little things, ours would have been half the length of theirs. And the other thing is what we were.
Planning and zoning that, okay?
Yeah.
The other thing we were aiming for at that time was recognition of the ordinance. To be recognized as a dark sky community, you don't have to have a dark sky recognized ordinance yet. You just have to have a dark sky friendly ordinance, which this would probably qualify us for a dark sky community, plus the other layers. But so this, without stripping tons of stuff away, this really puts us 2 feet ahead in the future.
Just one thing, because you asked about light bulbs. The current ordinance specifies light bulb temperature 2,700 Kelvin.
Those you can find.
Those you can find. The 2,000 is a little harder to find. But what they're trying to get away from is
Actually, they're very expensive.
the two, yeah.
You can have 2,000.
The 2700s are much more readily available and they still accomplish the goal. It's the blue light that travels so far. It's the amber that kind of stays.
Any other questions, discussions?
I was gonna say, do you wanna go over the security lighting portion, since that was the portion that he was
Oh.
concerned about?
Oh,
You
wanna read
want
the
to talk
motion
about
lighting?
the motion lighting, so I was just making sure that we talked about
I
it.
just wanna- I was
yeah,
very.
because I was
curious
going
about that
from,
because,
you
I
know,
gotta have this plus.
Sure.
Sure.
but then again, yours are existing.
Are existing, but, you know,
Where are we?
new houses up there are gonna have the same issue, and do you really want someone getting hurt by a bear because they didn't have proper lighting?
Yeah, correct. So, what we had discussed back in June and no changes at this time says security lighting. One, security lighting shall use the lowest possible illumination to effectively allow surveillance, be zero uplight and directed downward towards designated areas. Again, this is for new builds.
Okay.
Uh,
You just raised another question for me. On the floodlights, are there any Kelvin limits and lumen?
So for new builds, there would be, yes. So if you're, I'm gonna give a ridiculous example. Somebody's gonna come in and they're gonna put 15,000 lumen floodlights on all four sides of their house. That would not be allowed. Floodlight, the motion sensor lights, and you might let her finish reading the security paragraph, because it may answer, but yes, for new builds, it would restrict the ability to put a certain amount of light up there. And it does direct that Kelvin should be followed at the 2700 limit.
Well, the whole purpose of that kind of lighting
Mhm.
is to make it really bright. Which
Okay,
I know is not dark sky
sure,
compatible, but the lights I'm using right now are 5,000 K.
Yep.
And the fixtures I have, there's 2 light bulbs.
Mhm.
And it's probably 2,000 per fixture on that. I have them on the corners of my house. They're usually not on at the
Sure.
same time. But the whole point is to put lots of light out there in that corner. So,
So to
Yeah.
continue, it says zero uplighted, for the use of motion sensors, timers, photocells, and other means to activate lighting during times when it is needed is encouraged to conserve energy, provide safety, promote compatibility. And then paragraph 3, photocells are permitted only at primary entrances where the light source is zero uplight and managed to not illuminate all night. That means the lights.
Yeah.
Again, but then under the definition of motion sensor is a mechanism for controlling illumination by turning lights on when activated by motion and remaining on during activity for a maximum of 5 minutes following the last detection of motion.
no, that's
So if they're all
fine.
5
Yeah.
minutes.
Mine are set to about 3 to 4 minutes. It's not real accurate.
Right.
Yeah, his question is existing.
Yes, I'm existing, but if someone were to build a house next door to me,
Mhm.
they're gonna have the same issue. You know, you need light out there, you cannot see what's.
They just
50
gotta
feet
shield
away.
it, point it down and put it on a
Yeah.
motion sensor and they're good to go.
so,
And,
What is that? You have the same sort of floodlights that I have.
yeah,
Right.
they're very common.
And
Yeah.
too, I think what you're asking, how much in terms of lumens are, because you're existing, you just qualify because you're existing,
Well-
as long as you turn them off.
Right, or it's just the 5, but then.
But the point is, you're, even a new house out there, they're gonna want something bright.
Okay,
And 2,000 lumens total with 5,000 K light color is very bright. Like, granted, but you need it. That gives light out about 30, 40 yards in depending on how many trees you've got. And it also depends on how, you know, what angle at the ground you put them out. But it puts out a lot of light, but I feel a lot safer.
Right.
Walking out at 10 o'clock at night or midnight or whatever it is, and being able to see far enough that I can do something if something starts coming.
yeah, again, the 5-minute thing, which you're well.
Right, and they're gonna go off in 5 minutes unless I'm still out there walking, so.
And the important thing is you don't get attacked by bears that come in with helicopters. So you don't need to shine it up.
No,
Right.
they're pointed down, but
Right.
you know, they're up on the roof line, so they're 15 feet off the ground easy. And by the time they go down and it starts spreading out, so yeah, I've got a big ring, but it provides me the safety so that if there's an animal over there, I can see them before I go wandering out and, you know, further down the driveway or something, so.
The challenge is, and we have the safety of the wildlife. Also competing with, we have a lot of excess light in some places that's moving the wildlife elsewhere.
That's true, and I've seen houses where the lights are on all night
Right.
long.
Well, and I'm not trying to pick on you for being in the Valley of the Utes, but a light that's going 40 yards where I live is probably crossing 3 lots.
Yeah, and
You know what I
you know,
mean?
there's a house next to me on both sides. Actually, one side is a vacant lot. so
Yeah.
there's a bunch of trees
Right.
and, you know, the thing is, they're not on more than 5 minutes.
So let me tell you what I'm not supposed to tell you. This ordinance is gonna be complaint driven, okay, for all of the existing structures. The only people who are going through plan submission are new builds. So the only way you're likely to get a complaint is if somebody near you says, hey, that's way too bright.
Right.
If I was in your shoes, I might like to keep the light. And if I turned the temperature down from the 5,000 to the 2,700 Kelvin, if somebody were to come complain, I've already stated for the record, we don't have an ability to measure your lumens at the property line, right? So for those existing lights, we don't have a way to say that's too many lumens. The color would be the only other thing that could trip you up. So you might look and see if leaving the light and the brightness the way you like it and just going to a softer colored temperature might keep you from ever getting that complaint. If that,
I just wanted to make sure y'all were considering
Sure.
that. And
Sure.
like I said, the point is to put a lot of light out there.
Yep.
And, you know,
For a short period.
5,000 to 2,700 with the number of lumens I have, it wouldn't be as bright. It would probably be okay.
you can't see it quite as far from distance.
Yeah.
Right.
The example we always give is I have a Jeep out there with the 5,000 lumen headlights and people are always flashing their brights at me because they think it's bright. No, it's not. It's that blue light that just,
Yeah.
you can see it from the valley floor when you're looking up at, certain homes that blue light goes a long
Yeah.
distance. So that would be my only recommendation is not telling you have to change your lights. You're clearly doing the motion sensor right. If I owned your home and I didn't want to ever have a complaint where somebody showed up in 2 years, if I swapped the bulb to a different color, well, we don't have the ability to tell you how much lumens it is anyway, so.
Like I said, I did that
Yep.
before I knew that there were anything going on
Sure.
with that. Yeah, I could go to a lower Kelvin
Mhm.
and it'd probably be okay.
It's actually
My
easier.
worry is that you weren't going to allow floodlights and
No.
motion sensors at all.
Yeah, the motion sensors and floodlights have been in since the first revision.
Okay.
So many of the homes up here have them because I have motion sensors, the only exterior light I use. It's right by my front stairs, so when I park and walk up,
Yeah.
the light turns on, I walk in, and then it turns off as soon as I'm inside, so.
Okay. I just want to make sure something was in there.
Yep.
Back in March, where at my house, we put in, I think the 3,000 Kelvin, because there we were going 3,000 to 2,000, I think 2,700. Anyway, we took pictures and it's actually easier to see with the yellow lights. Because if you have the 5,000 Kelvin or whatever we had before, it's so bright, it almost glares, so it restricts your vision. So you might consider, like I said, a softer color, because you really can see easier.
I could try. Like I said, my goal there was as bright as I could get it,
Yeah.
with reasonable light bulbs.
Yeah, what she's talking about is
Readily available.
the 5,000, it gives a lot of glare, so it kills your night vision.
Yeah.
So when you're out walking and you get blinded by that, now you can't see the 5 feet in front.
And also can't see past the part where the light is, but if you have that lower Kelvin, you can see.
You can
like,
see it.
the trees.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. The Dark Sky International website, they have 2 pictures and there's some in videos and whatnot where it has a typical floodlight flashing on a person's gate in their fence. And you can't see the perpetrator standing by the gate because you are glared.
Yeah.
And then they have it where they've toned down the color to the yellow colors and you can clearly see that someone is standing by
Okay.
the gate.
I'll
So
get that.
it's quite interesting, yeah.
Yeah, I will. But like I said, my concern is you weren't gonna allow
No,
floodlights at all.
Okay. But I do need to read again, new builds, for new builds, the following lighting is prohibited. Blinking, strobing, moving, rotating, excessively distracting bright lights, floodlights, spotlights, drop lamp fixture, wall packs that emit upward light. So if you have a floodlight that's going up, that's prohibited in the future.
Sure.
But a downward floodlight is fine. And then mercury vapor lights, beacons, sky beam, searchlights, lights in or attached to trees except exempted. So again, for new builds, you can have floodlights, but they have to be downward directed, and then motion detectors preferred.
Okay.
So yours being
That
existing.
works.
And-
Like I said, I saw an old version then.
Right, yeah, and that's, again, that's why we haven't been publishing a whole lot to the public, because each time there are significant changes. And so it would be really confusing for someone to read it and then skip 2 or 3 versions and say, uh-oh. So we wanted to make sure what we had would be approved by planning and zoning, approved by village representation. Then we publish it so that everybody can see the same thing at the same time.
For comments, right?
Yes.
Not after it's.
No, so we have an existing ordinance that it doesn't define, it's too vague to really be enforceable. So this will be replacing the existing ordinance, which requires the full public comment, posting in the newspaper. This is also gonna have to be read at the next P and Z committee meeting, not tomorrow's meeting, but the next one, because this is part of their, so
Now
it's
that I know how it works.
Yeah.
Because, there's information on the village website, but there's no link to an actual
Right.
document.
right.
Because we don't have a document.
Yeah.
And,
It's 17.
yeah, the other option is to put a link to the current version of the document at any one time, but it sounds like you're gonna wait till it gets much further along.
Well, It's, I think we're headed to a vote now to be done with this,
Okay.
but we've had months of back and forth with the council process and then with Dark Sky, because once we cleared the first council hurdle, we went to Dark Sky and they had a lot of good ideas that we had to figure out what would work and what wouldn't.
Okay.
Any other questions, discussions, comments, concerns?
You need a motion, but you made some changes.
Okay, so the changes have been. I'll do them quickly. Enhancing enhancing,
Is at this meeting, right?
yes.
Yes.
Yeah, change
No,
it to this
okay,
meeting.
This is a change at the
What we
meeting.
need to
Oh,
approve
yeah,
here.
To enhance the definition of decorative string lighting, remove the definition of lux, add the definition of temporary outdoor lighting. Change the wording of temporary outdoor lighting to examples, take out, the examples of festivities and, take out a restriction for accredited public schools. Delete, measurement of light trespass, put in information about, exterior lighting mounted under a roof overhang and eaves have to be zero uplight, so that makes sure that any light on an overhang has to be tilted downwards. Exterior lighting to the side of the structure shall be 3 foot back. That was for new commercial ones. And then we are going with a different rubric for high density area, meaning condos and townhomes. We're changing the order of the options for residential lighting to be, the first option would be exterior lighting is the 6+2 rubric. The second option is, where, a fixture 3 feet back from a roof edge doesn't count, but then you have to have your measurement 8 light fixtures per half acre, total of 16, or, and all these are big ors, 3 choices. That the other one wasn't a change from last time. Plan submission, they have to designate which light level standard they're using. And we're gonna strike the provision that relief can be provided if your property will be confiscated, because that is kind of backwards written and it's kind of unnecessary. So that real quickly was the changes from what we voted on June 2nd.
She needs a motion.
I move to accept all these changes.
I'm sorry.
First and a second, any last minute discussion? Okay, so the motion, if I can interrupt, would be to provide it to planning and zoning for their review to send on to.
With all the changes adopted, yeah, I'll
To send it to
send
P&Z.
it to P&Z next.
And ask them to send it to council.
And ask them to send it to council.
Second, okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any objections? Okay, so moved. Any new business?
I will let you all know when, there's a planning and zoning meeting tomorrow that is, the only item is for them to finish approving the comp plan. So I will let the committee know as soon as their next, whatever date they pick tomorrow, so we can come present, and obviously any of you are welcome to attend. I'll be at that meeting as well, but,
So would that be a month away? Don't they have standard meetings?
they usually do. This is a special meeting, specifically for the comp plan. So I think their next scheduled meeting is the first full week of August, that week of the 3rd, I believe. But that's a discussion that we'll have at the P and Z meeting tomorrow to pick a day and see who's around. But I would tentatively look at that week of the 3rd of August is when this will go to P and Z.
And we had been trying to rush things to get dark sky, be the first in the nation. That not being an option at this point, then we don't need to pressure any other branch of committees. I think I sent around, which will now need to be revised, kind of a Q&A. You saw the Q&A sheet. If I was somebody, I can update that with these changes and have that available for planning and zoning. And then same thing, if planning and zoning does not recommend any major changes, I also started a side-by-side comparison for village council purposes, what they saw in March and what it is now, so that they just have to go through the highlights of what was changed. Because it is so different from what it was in March, and at that time, they said, we like this, we want to proceed, but now it's like over here. But again, the majority of the provisions are less restrictive than what they saw in March, so hopefully, when they see that, they will consider approving today's version to proceed again to legal and public notice. Correct? Do you think that that's a good supplementary information?
I think so. I think the question and answer is helpful. I think council will want to see how this compares to what they previously approved. I did get some comments at P and Z meeting that they want to see like all of the changes, like all of the revision to, I mean, I guess we could provide it to them if they want, but they're only being asked to vote on this document.
Correct.
So if we think there's some value in giving them the one with the green words and the blue words and the red words and fine, you can see all that, but that's gonna be 2 years worth of revisions that we're not trying to get them. to
My
fill
notebook's
down.
that thick.
Right.
If they want to see
Right.
every revision.
Right.
So we will present them with the Q&A format, because I think that, and I've tried to write that as if I were sitting in the citizens chair. What does that do to me?
Yeah.
You know, and,
What is this gonna do to somebody who's never seen it before is a great
right.
Q&A sheet.
Yeah.
And so if planning and zoning wants to see all the changes that get this point, I'll provide it, but I won't provide it ahead of time. I'll just answer it if it's
Yeah.
asked.
You might have, a very large, highly edited document ready to email to just say, you want to see everything? Here you go. But we're only asking you to vote on this. And then if the committee members choose to go through it, that's their time if they want to, but they're ultimately, the best comparison here is what did council say yes to before and what's council being asked to say yes to now? That's the most relevant comparison.
Well, I could, what I think I had for that before was overkill, like I added a definition here, I took out a definition. I think if I just say definitions were changed,
Yeah,
and then condense the side-by-side comparison, I can do that as well.
great. So no point in you all setting a meeting date until we've got through P and Z first week of August. So it'll be middle to end of August. Before, and truthfully, we shouldn't need another meeting from you all, because if P and Z votes favorably, then it goes on to village legal counsel. Then it goes to council for what will at least be a 30 to 60-day ordinance modification process if they go forward. So it's gonna be a minute before we have something. I do think if we have something back, what you all stated about, let's go ahead and go back to Rick at Dark Sky and say this and this is what we got. And we've left language in here for future proofing, hopefully. And then maybe get some notes out of him for things that would have to change, whether it's the municipal ordinance or the designated place or whatever level of recognition we were going to chase. But ultimately, we're gonna wanna let, the process go forward naturally for at least some time to see how the builders react, how, homeowners react, and the village, because the village has got a lot of lights up and down Bill Burgess that we're responsible for replacing, and this document will give us a way to replace those with a much more preferable lighting package than what we would do otherwise.
Yeah, and so I would recommend that we go back to Rick with a request for approval, because that's a
No.
$750 fee.
Correct.
Did you ever get reimbursed?
No,
You need to submit your reimbursement, please. And Ileana's
Submit that to Ileana and she'll, but I agree, let's wait and go back to
In a
Rick.
casual way, because Rick has been doing this all pro bono.
Sure. But it would be good for us to know that in a year or two, maybe we don't have to change anything, and there is a Dark Sky recognized place that's not as restrictive that we could chase or
Right.
kind of stair step our way up over time.
So if whoever is in charge would ask Ileana, maybe I should, have us on P and Z's next agenda. What's the process to get that?
So you'll have the form, because you voted, there's a form that you send to Ileana that we're asking for these documents to be moved along. In this case, it's not the council, it would be the P and Z. So that way she has the documents, so just gather all that
I
up.
heard your name, huh?
Yeah, I did, I'm coming.
Yeah, we have a document that we're gonna need to get to the next P and Z meeting, not tomorrow's meeting, the next
Sure.
one. So I was just explaining,
So I would send it to you once I get it all cleaned up,
Yes, please.
and then ask that it be on I
Fine.
can ask you to put it on the next P and Z
Yes.
agenda?
Yes.
Okay, I don't have to give P and Z's permission to
Right.
put it in, okay.
and I just have a question for Ileana.
Yes.
If, Ileana, do you need to have a receipt or a check number or something?
I've been asking you.
I just,
Yes.
I forgot what I need to give you.
Yes, because we have the minutes that authorize the OPay
Yeah,
for the reimbursement.
okay.
But yes, that would be wonderful.
I mean, is there a specific form he has to fill out or just,
There's not a form, just the receipt.
Just to receive. Okay.
or a copy of your cancel check?
Yes.
If there's no further discussion, we appreciate your input because it's questions like this that we need to bounce back and forth between people. We just haven't had something solid that we could answer questions with.
Right.
Because before today or last week or last month, if you had asked us that question, we'd say, oh. So we appreciate your attendance and if you approve or are in favor of this, we ask that maybe you attend future meetings of the village or P and Z and state that we have satisfied your concerns and that you would see this as a good thing for the village of Angel Fire.
I haven't seen the whole thing.
See, it's right here. And then would that be published when goes to P and Z? Is that the full context? Is that published
About the
publicly?
agenda,
No, the,
we can definitely post it publicly.
okay.
And I want to make sure I understand, you're not wanting to get this on the August 6th. You're wanting to get this on the September 3rd.
No,
No,
August
sorry.
6th.
The August 6th is the one we want.
That
Not,
is the next one.
no, there's a P and Z meeting tomorrow as well. For the,
Oh,
comp
yeah,
plan.
it wouldn't be able to get on.
Correct.
Right.
Yeah.
Got you. So we do want
August
August.
Like the 6th, so it's the 6th.
Okay.
I was right about the week, wrong about the day. So.
Okay. If there's no further discussion, then the meeting is agended at 5:49. Thank you again.